Welcome to the campus of North Idaho College and today's broadcast of the North Idaho College Public Forum. The crew is comprised of North Idaho College television students. Your moderator is North Idaho College political scientist Tony Stewart.
Today we wish to pay tribute to a man who has served at North Idaho College for many, many years. As a matter of fact, he has spent 18 years as the president of this institution, Barry G. Schuler. Barry Schuler became president of North Idaho College in 1968, and as of the taping of this show, he's just ending his tenure of that 18 years and is going to be moving on to other activities in his life. And we wanted him to take this opportunity to be with us and to answer our questions about that 18 years. As to background, Barry Schuler is a native of the state of Minnesota, and he received education there. He got his baccalaureate degree from the University of Minnesota, magna cum laude, in 1954. He also attended the university where he received his Master's of Arts in Public Administration in 1965, and following that he worked toward the PhD in political science at that same institution. He also, during his years of educational pursuits, attended Harvard University's Institute for Educational Management. As I indicated, he became president of North Idaho College in 1968, and prior to that, he served a number of administrative positions, including Dean of Instruction at Minneapolis Community College. He was also Dean of Students at that institution, and at one time admissions officer. While his years at North Idaho College, he also served in 1985 as the president of the Northwest Association of Community and Technical Colleges. Prior to that, he served in 1981 and 82 as president of the Mountain States Association of Community Colleges, and also for that organization was secretary-treasurer from 1975 through 1980. We're very happy, President Schuler, to have you with us to review those years of service at North Idaho College.
It's good to be here, Tony.
And I'm happy as always to welcome a regular panelist, Janelle Burke, who is an attorney in Coeur d'Alene, and she shall commence the questioning.
Well, President Schuler, what do you consider to have been major significant events that occurred while you were here at the college? During that 18 years, what would you say were some of the high points of your administration?
Well, I'd certainly have to say that early on the acquisition of the beach and the waterfront areas around the campus were certainly an important step for the college and its campus plans. Then following that, we got into the State Permanent Building Fund, which had not happened before, for state help in the financing of the construction of buildings on the campus. That was followed shortly then by the construction of the science building, the Sider Hall of Science, which is certainly a very fine facility for the community college programs in the laboratory sciences. And then the Headland Vocational Center was built, and then finally the building that we're in now, and this very fine communication arts building. And so I think that those were milestones in my time at North Idaho College, because you not only got the new buildings, but that was substantial new support facilities for the programs that then could take place. So it was not only the new buildings, but also the new programs then that could be operated on our campus, because we had the facilities to do that.
Can you give us some idea of what North Idaho College was like when you came here? Sort of an idea as to what the community was like and what the college was like, and perhaps what you found when you first came to Coeur d'Alene.
Well, I remember it very vividly because we drove down on the campus, and the soccer field that's out in front of the administration building now was a unpaved parking lot with a lot of dust, and it was right in the center of the campus. The campus was quite smaller at the time. There were a lot of older homes to the east and to the north of the facilities that we had at the time. And of course the beach area was not owned by the college at the time. So it was a very small institution. It had basically daytime programs for the traditional students in the academic and some vocational areas, and it had a tremendous potential because of the lovely site that it was on, but it needed some developing, obviously.
And who were some of the people that you met when you first came to the campus, or to town even, and as you began to get acquainted in Coeur d'Alene? Who were some of the early people that you met?
Well, obviously, the members of the Board of Trustees were the first people that I met, and Dr. Lynn Frederickson was on the board at the time, and I recall that he and Scott Reed, who was also on the board at the time, took us around the town and showed us the area. Ed Sider from Post Falls was the chairman of the board, and so I met him early on. And then we started looking for a house, so we met some of the real estate people. And Art Manley would have been one of those who was in the legislature at the time. So I met him fairly early on when I came to Coeur d'Alene. That would be some of the main people that I recall.
Ms. Schuler, we're going to talk a little bit about some statistics from that early time, because I know you have a good grasp of statistics. You've had to deal with a lot of them over the years. Give us kind of a rundown of the institution as far as enrollment and the amount of square footage and buildings and those kind of things, and then compare that with now at the end of your 18-year tenure. Those are really a contrast in what happened to this institution. You've already reviewed some of the buildings, but I don't think our viewers who are from some distance away grasp what we're talking about concerning the growth of the institution.
The student body at the time was about 850 students, and they were all, as I mentioned, or basically they were the traditional daytime students, full-time students. Today, the institution is approximately 2,400 students in the regular programs. That would be the credit and vocational programs. But then beyond that, of course, we serve perhaps another 2,000 students each semester in the special interest and in the recreational type classes and that sort of thing, which are non-credit, but nevertheless serve the needs of the area. So perhaps we are around 4,500 head count if you want to count all the different people that we serve in the different programs like adult basic education, GED, and the special interest courses, as I mentioned. So in that area we've grown substantially. As far as buildings are concerned, I wish I could recall the square footage. That's a little technical for me to do from memory, but I believe that we grew from about 8 buildings of some kind to about 20 today, of all the buildings that we have on the campus now to meet the needs of the college. So again, in that area there was a substantial growth. The budget, on the budget side, if I'm not mistaken, we were right around $1 million budget, annual operating budget when I came, and today it's approximately $11 million on the operating budget. So that is indicative both of growth, of course, and inflation. But the programming has grown obviously substantially, and the numbers served has grown tremendously. We of course now have outreach programs into Bonner County and Shoshone County, and sometimes Boundary County and Benewah County. So the outreach programs were new since I've been here.
Also, for some viewers who've never had any contact with our institution, they would not be aware of the fact that we have both a vocational academic curriculum on this campus, or 2 schools, but they are all under one board of trustees and one president. We've been talking about facilities, but the programs themselves, there have been a lot of new programs added. The offerings were much more limited in 1968 than they are today. Go through some of the major programs that have been added that you're most proud of, both in the vocational and academic program, that were not here when you came.
On the academic side, one of the major areas that were added were the paraprofessional programs, which are designed to take students and give them entry-level skills or entry-level training so that after 2 years they can go into a career directly. And the programs that I can cite there would be the registered nursing program, which was developed starting in about 1970, the law enforcement program, which also now has the criminalistics laboratory attached to it, the journalism technician program, child development program, Those would be programs that would be of the kind that we call paraprofessional. On the vocational side, diesel mechanics was inaugurated since I've been here. The clerical skills, the office management program was instituted. Those would be a couple of the main ones. A machinist, millwright programs were also put in place during that time. Of course, in the vocational area, you need to adapt to the times, and so there are programs, new programs that have come in, and there are some old programs that have gone out during the time that I was here because they were no longer meeting a need in the area. I might cite, for example, forestry technician program, which has since been dropped because of the employment opportunities weren't there.
Janelle Berg.
Over this period of time, you've probably seen a lot of changes in the Inland Empire. What would you consider to be some of the major changes that have occurred in our area, particularly in the Coeur d'Alene area, the northern Idaho area?
Of course, the most profound change has been the shift in the economy and the industries that have been the mainstay for the area. I've seen, of course, the decline of mining and the forest products industry and the growth of the tourist industry, and I would say that that would be the most significant thing that I would note.
And how does that correspond to the growth of the community college, do you think? Or has it corresponded, or how do you think it's affected the growth of the community college, this change in the economic base?
The community college, of course, adapts to the needs, the current needs, and we can shift our emphasis according to the kinds of employees that the industries and the businesses in the area are seeking, and therefore we had a big role in the retraining of personnel from particularly the mining areas when those mines closed down. So that added to the workload that we had and to the service that we needed to provide. The general population growth that took place in the area in that period of time, of course, also sent a lot more students our way and came to North Idaho College for their education, or at least to begin their education. So that would be, I think, the principal change. There was a lot of home building, a lot of construction that took place in the early years, and of course that also is now at a lower level than when we came. So it has presented us with a challenge to adapt to the changing times, and I think that the community college has been able to respond to that.
There are so many things that one could cover, and we'll get into some philosophical questions on education too, but a little bit more about the institution. And I've always looked upon your 18-year administration as in several focuses or phases that you were working on at the same time with the support of the board and others who were affiliated with the institution. We've talked a lot about that you've given an awful lot of attention and emphasis to the facilities, which we've been discussing here. Also that you gave a lot of attention to expanding the curriculum and offerings that were not available. But it seems to me that there was another third focus that you were dealing with all the way through, because when you came it was so small and had very few facilities and the curriculum was limited, and you worked on those things. But as you did that, you also went out and you recruited faculty and staff, because as that grew, you needed that. And it was my understanding that when this college first started, and it's always been a very, very wonderful part of this community, but for the early part, there wasn't a real national search for individuals, and I believe it was during your tenure that has been initiated. Give us a little bit of background of how you went about and planned to do national searches to broaden the areas of representation for the faculty and the staff.
First of all, it must be said that when the college was small, obviously you had to hire faculty that could teach in more than one field. For example, in your field, Tony, political science, in those days they combined that with history to have a full-time workload for one person. And that was partly a consideration that had to take place because of the size of the institution. But as we grew, yes, I made a definite decision that it would be best to have subject matter specialists teaching in the respective disciplines. And so we went about then gradually, we would advertise our openings in the Chronicle of Higher Education, which is a national market area, and we would get applications from around the country. And we tried to diversify then as to the academic backgrounds of the individuals too. In other words, not all from regional universities in this immediate area, but rather to seek individuals, qualified individuals who came from many parts of the country. And of course, again, Tony, you're an example of someone who really comes to us from out east, on the East Coast. And if you look at our faculty today, I think you'll see that it has a lot of diversity in the backgrounds of the individuals in the colleges and universities that they've attended. And we felt that that would enrich the learning environment for the students to do that.
I also believe in relation to that, with the growth, and that will always happen to some extent as we become a more traveled population. But the student body has also become far more representative of different states and even quite a few from other countries. I know that our charge of responsibility is to serve in Idaho, and we have the overwhelming majority of students from Idaho and northern Idaho. But isn't it true in the last 10 or 12 years that a lot of students from other countries and states have been attending this institution?
Yes, that's true. We have the international students, and we think that they're a valuable part of our student body because they bring to our students, an introduction to the cultures and the languages and the backgrounds that they represent. And we think that's a valuable addition to the educational experience for the students, most of whom still come from, of course, this region, or the 5 northern counties. In addition to that, though, we've been discovered in Idaho, and Idaho students from all the other areas of Idaho may also come here and basically pay in-district tuition. Their counties have to supplement that with out-of-district tuition, but the student himself from Idaho does not have to pay extra to come here. And I think they find our campus attractive, our location and setting attractive, and so we're seeing more students coming from other areas of Idaho as well. I believe that last year we had 23 of Idaho's 44 counties represented in our student body. So that's indicative of the trend that you have stated. And so we do have more international students, we have more Idaho students. Another factor, though, that has been working toward that end is the reciprocal agreement that we have with the state of Washington now, and then the WICHE Community College Exchange Program, which primarily for us affects the state of Montana, which allows students to come from those 2 states now without paying out-of-state tuition. So they have also greatly increased, those 2 programs have greatly increased the numbers of students that are coming from outside the district.
Janelle Berg.
During the period of time that you've been in Idaho, I'm sure you've noticed that there have been changes in the way Idahoans perceived education. Perhaps my question is really 2-pronged. Perhaps you can indicate how you think Idahoans today view education, and also how you think the pendulum has swung in terms of how Idahoans prefer to have their education be administered, and what kind of a priority education has taken in the state's citizens' minds.
Well, I think unfortunately, Janelle, that there appeared to be more support for higher education when I first came to the state than there has been in the last few years, and I'm sure that's related, of course, to the financial situation of the state and its revenue sources and so on. But that has been a discouraging factor, is that when the times got tough, we saw a decline in the level of support provided for community colleges in particular, but I know that the senior institutions felt some of that also. So there's a lot of things that can be done, but to do them and do them well, it takes financial resources. There's no way around it, and so that has been, frankly, a concern of ours and of the administration in the last few years, that trend be turned around, and perhaps we will see that start now.
That was my next question.
Yes.
How do you think the citizens of the state are reacting to educational needs now? Do you feel there's a more populous demand for educational quality that has been lacking perhaps for a few years, or maybe attention has been directed elsewhere and there's now a resurgence of interest in education?
Yes, I think that's taking place, and I think it's taking place because they're more and more recognizing the role that the colleges have in the economic development of the state. That you will not get economic development if you don't have strong support from higher education and vocational education. And I think that that message is getting through, and so I think Idaho is, like a lot of other states, is now starting to realize that if you want to have economic development and advancement in that area, that you're going to have to address the needs of your higher education institutions, and also the public schools, actually, because they're a factor in attracting industries to the state in the sense that people don't want to move their families to a state that is not providing a good quality elementary and secondary educational program.
My question links right to what Janelle's been asking. With now all these years, in fact, you've spent your life in education. When you've completed your many years of education, then you've been in these various positions that I indicated at the beginning of the show. Not only in Idaho, but talking about education in the United States, my real basic question is, as you look down the road, what do you see probably as the most positive sign for education, public education, and what do you see as the greatest danger or threat to that quality education?
As the positive signs, I see this resurgence of interest in supporting higher education, particularly the research aspects of it. That has its dangers, though, too. If we support research at the expense of rewarding those instructors and professors who are good teachers, and encourage them to step out of the classroom and into the laboratories and give minimum effort to their teaching assignment, that would be unfortunate, because we need to continue, obviously, to train the upcoming generation in the sciences and the social sciences and the arts and so on. So that is an encouraging sign, but it has that one warning that needs to go along with it. As far as the another sign of concern is the increasing share that they're putting on the students themselves. In other words, the increase of tuition and fees and the lessening of the federal financial assistance programs that's taking place. Those two trends are both happening at the same time, and that could mean that access to higher education will be denied to a lot of people because of the financial need that they have, or the inability to come up with the financial necessities to continue their education. That is very crucial. Now, that could in effect help the community colleges in terms of enrollment, because the lower cost community colleges might be the place where more people will have to start their higher education. But in the long run, of course, that'll still be a problem for people who want to continue their education through the baccalaureate and higher degrees.
Janelle Burke.
What do you see as the proper role of the community college in a community? This is sort of along the same line that we're talking about. What should be the proper role of the community college? For many of us, like myself, it has greatly enriched my life because I have spent some time here. And I've found that it's been both interesting and challenging. What do you think is the proper role of a community college? Is it only to educate those students who happen to be full-time students, or what should be its relationship with the community?
I think that the way North Idaho College has developed, I think, really exemplifies what my beliefs about what the role is of the community college, and that is that it has many aspects to the programs that it should offer. Certainly the academic transfer program, which was the original basis of the founding of North Idaho College. Then the vocational technical programs are also very important because they meet the needs of both students in the area, but also employers and businesses and industries in the area. And then we need the continuing education programs in the evening and at convenient times for the non-traditional students. It could be housewives that want to now get back into the job market, or they want to, could be people that want to simply take courses for their own edification and enrichment of their lives. It should be, or cultural enrichment, for example. So I think the community college should also provide those. And I think that with the construction of this communication arts building and that fine auditorium that we have, that has made that possible. We've had many more cultural events that now can take place. Concerts, lectures, symphonies, really fine opportunities that this community can take advantage of. And I think that's a valid role. I also think that it's a valid role to provide these special interest courses for people who want to make good use of their leisure time in a recreational pursuit or in a hobby or something like that. And these courses, which are self-sustaining, they are designed so that the tuition and fees paid will support them, and they don't normally have a contribution from the taxpayers. But I think that also is a valid contribution that the community college can make to the area it serves. And then finally, I could mention the specific community service programs that a community college offers. Our criminalistics laboratory, which serves the law enforcement agencies in the 10 northern counties, is an example. This program, the NIC Public Forum, is an example of serving the North Idaho with programming that they otherwise would not have. We are the grantee for Head Start, and we also are the host for the University of Idaho's continuing education program in Coeur d'Alene by housing them on the campus and accommodating their needs and sharing our library with them and so on. Again, another service that I think is a good service is needed by the community, and it's something that we're able to help with, and we become a vehicle, in other words, to help with the upper division and graduate level courses that both the University of Idaho and Lewis and Clark State College offer in the community.
I have just one question that I want to ask. You were in a unique position during your time here. You were both an educator, and you also were a parent who had children who were getting ready to go to college. As your children went through the public school system here and then eventually elected colleges, how did you help them to decide where to go, and what kinds of advice do you have for other parents who are trying to decide where should my child attend college?
Well, first of all, you need to look at their goal in college, the specific program that they want to major in or to pursue, and that would obviously have an important bearing on it, because colleges and universities around the area have specializations and areas where they're stronger than other areas, and that they in fact have established some kind of a reputation for. So you'd want to look at that, and then you would want to look at the community college, or the financial aspect of it, and there the community college often can serve a valuable role in the first 2 years prior to transfer, because you're talking about the introductory and the survey courses, whether you would go to the community college or to the university in the first 2 years, and often the community college can provide those at a high level of quality, and yet you don't have to go away and pay the dormitory and that sort of thing. So, and that's becoming a much more important factor today for a lot of families, is the financial aspect. So I think for the sake of economy, often that the community college becomes an important factor.
I must interrupt, we're out of time, and I know I speak for Janelle Burke when I say to you, thank you for being with us. We thank you for the 18 years of service to this college, this state, and the country in education.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I'm pleased to have this opportunity to bid farewell to North Idaho College.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest has been Barry G. Schuler, who just finished 18 years as president of North Idaho College. Please be with us again next week. I am Tony Stewart.
The North Idaho College Public Forum can be seen at this same time each week over this station. This production was videotaped earlier by a North Idaho College student crew for viewing at this more appropriate time.